Museums are a repository of history and a treasure trove of information with lots of lessons for the present. This week was International Museum Day, and celebrating it, we'd like to take you to one such museum that's simply awesome. It's in a bunker that was used by an extremist group in the north of Sri Lanka, now telling tales of the history of Jaffna from its days of prehistoric folktales, monarchs of the Jaffna Kingdom, European settlement, and modern tales of civil war. It sits underneath Fox Resorts Jaffna. Welcome to Prime Group Kaleidoscope with me, Savithri Rodrigo.
Welcome to The Grand Ward Place, an award-winning condominium project where luxury embraces aesthetics, discernment, life and privacy as one. Call 0702 777 777 to schedule a private viewing today. The Grand, there is only one.
Lots to catch up this week. Where is Sri Lanka headed from here? What do the people want? A vision for vision and Victorian vintage in patchwork are just some. So keep us on your radar, subscribe and follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram and LinkedIn.
Welcoming all of you with warmth and care. Commercial Bank. Our interest is in you.
It's time for a quick look at our week that was on Commercial Bank Snapshot. US investment bank JP Morgan backed Sri Lanka's crisis-hit government bonds, saying recent political changes in the country should gradually improve its strains and help its talks with the IMF. The central bank predicts Sri Lanka's average annual inflation will settle at around 22% by the end of 2022. The Sri Lankan rupee has depreciated by 44% in the first quarter of 2022. Sri Lanka's outward labour migration tops the 100,000 mark this year after departures for foreign employment grew by a record 127% in 2021. Uber Eats Sri Lanka has sought to deploy bicycle delivery riders to tackle the current fuel shortage. The world's longest suspension pedestrian bridge, the Sky Bridge 721, opens in the Czech Republic. Plants are being grown in lunar soil for the first time and they are sprouting. Mattel unveils its first ever Barbie doll with hearing aids as part of efforts towards diversity and inclusion.
Welcoming all of you with warmth and care. Commercial Bank. Our interest is in you.
Welcome, you're watching our Commercial Bank News Capsule. News from the Colombo Stock Exchange, which is showing signs of rebounding. The All Share Price Index moved up by 4.6% and the daily average turnover moved up to 2.5 billion rupees. WTI oil remains around $110 per barrel as US crude stockpiles fell unexpectedly and Shanghai resumed work after the lockdown. Gold prices moved down this week to around $1,812 per ounce due to the strong US dollar and rising US Treasury yields. The collective of youth at the protest on Godface Green handed over a joint declaration with 8 demands to the newly appointed Prime Minister, among which the repeal of the 20th Amendment leading to a new 21st Amendment. In response, the draft of the proposed 21st Amendment is due to be finalized this week. I had a quick chat with Nirmani Liyanage, a social worker and activist who has been at Kota Gogama over this period. What are young people like you actually wanting, those of you who are at GGG, wanting at this point of time?
So I think first one we want is this Aragalaya to be left out, to be supported in terms of not trying to control it, because it has the potential to create people's mind, or even change the people's mindset, change even the attitude, change the lifestyle, changing the whole collective mindset of this country. So we will all operate with value sets, that value set that Aragalaya is coming up with. No corruption, fair and equal society and everybody feels inclusive, we will continue to create more tools, more ways of getting the government and citizens to do their best, both, not just the government. So I think like letting the Aragalaya to decide its course and then keep on going until they feel that the course is served and we have arrived, then they will leave.
After the tragic loss of their 3-year-old son, a devastated pair, Samarasinghe and his wife, devoted themselves to bringing a ray of light into the hearts of those who most need it. Tandem Vision is the result, where visually impaired children are given bike rides on tandem bikes so they feel the exhilaration of a bike ride, which most of us take for granted. Oh, and Tandem Vision needs pilot riders.
Tandem Vision has its roots in the ultimate act of love, my love for my wife and my wife and myself, the love that we had for the son that we lost. My research in tandem bicycles to purchase a new one led me to find out that people use these around the world to take blind children and adults for bicycle rides. So I told my wife when we get the new tandem bicycle that we could speak to the blind school at Ratmalana and ask them whether we could take their children for bicycle rides. It's a great way to get some physical activity for yourself and at the same time do something really nice for somebody that can't ride a bicycle for themselves, because you'll be bringing a lot of happiness into the life of a child or a young adult by taking them for a bicycle ride, something that you can take for granted because you have your own eyesight and your vision. Because the ultimate objective and goal of a Tandem Vision is to someday take a tandem racing team or teams to the Paralympics and hopefully win a bronze, silver or a gold.
Australian Fashion Week hosted its first ever plus-size runway show this week with the Curve Edit, featuring 84 different runway looks for women sized 12 to 26.
Welcome to The Grand, Ward Place, an award-winning condominium project where luxury embraces aesthetics, discernment, life and privacy as one. Call 0702 777 777 to schedule a private viewing today. The Grand, there is only one.
If you're a bookworm or just want to speed up all that reading, Speed Reading with Sanjeev is just what you've been looking for. You can follow the program wherever you are in the world. Simply let us know and you could be gifted a program.
Making all your new goals in life a reality is why our strength is your strength. With 12 billion rupees worth of customer benefits in 2020 and a life insurance fund worth over 100 billion rupees, our strength is your strength. You focus on your goals. We will take care of the risks. Srilanka Life.
No matter what changes we have had in the last week, one thing is very clear. We are drowning in a massive economic crisis and our priority should be to get through this immediately if we are to keep our heads above water without drowning. Former chairman of the Sri Lanka Tea Board, Rohan Pettiagoda, is one of those who brings some clarity into what we are facing right now, and I invited him into the studio for a little chat. Rohan, welcome. A lot has happened in the last week, bouquets, brickbats, all kinds of things happening. But without losing focus, what is the priority of this newly appointed Prime Minister?
I think the first priority he has is to tell the people the truth, to level with the people. And he made a good start in his speech to the nation by telling us how grave the predicament in which we find ourselves is, and that it's going to be a long while to come out of it. He said 2 months, but I think he's kidding. The thing to avoid is to avoid giving false promises. Within 24 hours of being appointed, he came up with this number of $4 billion coming from Japan in economic aid. This is not true. It cannot be true. And so I would avoid, if I were him, of giving false hope. It's much better to be realistic and explain to the people that we can come out of this predicament only through our own labor. Nobody's going to give us a free lunch. How
bad a situation are we in?
I think it's very grave. This is a generational recovery. If you look at other countries that have faced similar economic issues to this one, it's going to be a period where we're going to see hyperinflation. We can't avoid it because the next phase is, having seen food prices go up by almost 50% in the past few months, people are going to ask for higher wages to compensate, to travel to work, for example, and there's no money to do that. We can increase taxes, but the economy has fallen, So tax revenue is going to be in any case small. So the government has to keep printing, and the more they print, the more inflation we have. There's no real easy way out of that cycle in the medium term, in the 2 to 5 year term, where we're looking at dark times.
There is an economic crisis, but there's also a lot of focus on a constitutional crisis, if I may call it that. What do you think should take precedence? How should we go about this?
The economy. I don't think the constitution is that relevant at this time. I think the people who are asking for reforms have got a good case. Those reforms definitely need to be done, but that's not the problem. If you think about it, Sri Lanka was very nearly reduced to bankruptcy in the 1970s by Mrs. Bandaranaike's government, and that didn't even have an executive presidency. So governments can do a lot of harm without too much power. But to come out of this present problem, I don't think it's a political reform that we need. It's just clever economic thinking, and most of all, patience on the part of the public. Public impatience is the biggest danger we have.
Rohan, there's so much news going around. No one fact checks. There's so much fake news. There are keyboard warriors with their own opinions. What would your words of advice be to citizens of Sri Lanka?
Tell the truth, however bitter and painful it is, just tell the truth. When people know the truth, there's less room for fake news to take root, because then the fake news that comes from just wishful thinking, for example, gets eliminated. So I think the people just need to be able to trust the government, that we're all in this together, and it's only by our joint labor, our joint effort, our hard work that we can come out of this. And there's no quick fix to this problem.
If you had a formula, even if it's a generational formula, what would that, for us to get out of this, what would that entail?
So the formula is very simple. It's just that it's painful. The formula is cut government spending to the bone. So that means no new recruitment, no increases in salaries, and we work more. We have 26 public holidays this year. We can do away with 15 of those without too much pain. 15 holidays cancelled means 3 more weeks of work every year. 3 weeks of work is 6% of our economic output. To get 6% growth is magic, for example. So what we need to do is basically cut the amount of money that we spend, increase the money that we earn through hard work. There's no other solution to this problem than hard work. If anyone's promising you subsidies or relief measures, it's not going to work. But that's not to say that we shouldn't support the poorest part of our community. So I think the poorest 1 million families in Sri Lanka desperately need to be assisted to overcome this crisis and not go into hunger. I think we have a duty to do that. And that's going to take some pain as well, because that's looking at maybe 300 billion rupees a year in today's money. That's a massive spend. It's 3 times education spend, for example. So we have to do that, but we're going to keep printing money to do these things, and therefore inflation is going to keep going up. And there's no easy way out of that.
Rohan, you're like that doctor that is administering some really painful injection. But I hope it will work, your formula, and somebody will stick with it, even though it's going to be painful, and maybe 10 years down the road, 20 years down the road, we might be back where we started, or back where we were.
Back in 2019.
2019. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
The dream of an entrepreneur who brings together locally sourced linen crafted with love by local craftswomen. Butterfly Bell Australia's Victorian Vintage Collection is an amazing collection of patchwork masterpieces. This is their story as told by founder Roshini Balapatavedi on Life in 60.
The Victorian Vintage Collection comes under Butterfly Bell Australia. And what inspired me to do this collection from a young age, my love for fabrics, color matching and designing. So a couple of years ago, I thought, how can I make this as a business? So I thought at the same time to educate and help out young women in the village. So this collection is not only a business, but it became more meaningful. So please do try out our collection, and it's a versatile, beautiful, 100% cotton, and it's all locally sourced. So the tagline is made with love.
We leave you with this week's Kaleidoscope takeaway. If there is no struggle, there is no progress.